out to take down all the elites. And I'm talking about this tweet right here, where I said, President Trump tweeted on June 22nd, 2020, the following: rigged 2020 election. Millions of mail-in ballots will be printed by foreign countries and others. It will be the scandal of our times. And then I said, and now at JD Bernie 1 reveals, consider the Department of Homeland Security controlled official ballots production. The Dems and the deep state print extras not knowing about non-radioactive isotope watermarks on official ballots. Remember how Q always said, watch the water? Maybe he was talking about watermarks on official ballots. Military sting operation. After weeding out all counterfeit ballots, Trump landslide confirmed. Folks, they're going to reveal the fraud that's not only been going on in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Arizona. They're going to reveal the fraud that the deep state has done in all 50 states. This is the coup de grace. This is the ultimate time where President Trump and the Patriots, they lured the Democrats and the deep state into committing purposeful fraud because they were too stupid and they didn't realize that the official ballots had these isotope watermarks. They thought they could get away with it. They were arrogant enough to think they were going to get away with it. President Trump has been kind of silent today, although he's been tweeting like crazy, but he hasn't made a speech like Joe Biden has today on November 4th. He's been laying low and been kind of silent because he's letting them all commit these crimes so that the military can go in behind the scenes and arrest them all. Now, this was something that I reported way back July 14, 2020. I actually made a video about this. I remember it. This was posted on July 14, 2020. There's the date, this past summer. And this is from DHS, Homeland Security, where they say election security. Elections play a vital role in a free and fair society and are a cornerstone of American democracy. We recognize the fundamental link between the trust in election infrastructure and the confidence the American public places in basic democratic function. A secure and resilient electoral process is a vital national interest and one of our highest priorities at the DHS. We are committed to working collaboratively with those on the front lines of elections, state and local government, election officials, federal partners, and the vendor community to manage risks to election infrastructure. We will remain transparent as well as agile to combat and secure our physical and cyber infrastructure against new and evolving threats. So this is when DHS was put in charge this past summer of all federal ballots for federal elections. All right? And it goes into all the details about how they basically are coordinating with all the states, and they took control. They took control. So this is the proof, and I remember reporting on this back this past summer. This is, again, from July 12th of 2020. Now, here we have an example. This is an example in the state of California from a letter from the Secretary of State, Alex Padilla, dated August 5th, 2020, which was written to all county clerks, registrars of voters throughout California, from Susan Lapsley, the Deputy Secretary of State. And this is about the general election that was going to be coming up on November 3rd, 2020. Pursuant to Elections Code Section 13002 and the California Code of Regulations, Title II, Section 202.1015, 202.18, and 202.80, the Secretary of State's office has selected a design and color combination for use in the November 3rd, 2020 general election. The watermark, there it is, the watermark for November 3rd, 2020 general election is the California poppy. The tint for the background and watermark is red PMS 192. The watermark and tint must appear on the ballot itself, not only on the stub. So we have an example right here. This is in California, where California, because of DHS at the federal level taking over all federal election ballots, California then is then ordered right here to order that these watermarked ballots are produced and are used. So these are the official ballots, and this didn't just happen in California. I'm just giving this as an example. This happened in all 50 states because of President Trump and the Patriots putting DHS in control of the federal elections. So this was done through all 50 states. All legitimate ballots had a watermark on them, every single one. Now, this meme shows what the Dems and the deep state have been doing last night and today. Let's blow this up a little bit. That's as much as I can blow it up. Number one, Dem ballot fraud. Number one, Dems pre-fill out blank ballots before election. Number two, Dems use election staff to destroy blank ballots before election. Number two, Dems use election staff to destroy opposing ballots. Number three, Dems deliberately organize voting for non-citizens. And then number four, Dems store the votes to alter outcome during election. So because these are pre-filled out blank ballots that the Democrat and deep state control, they don't have that watermark. They're not the official ballots that were used and passed out the polling. These were stored away and don't have the watermark on them. Now, Michael Kodry tweeted this out. He said, breaking, Wisconsin has more votes than people who are registered to vote. Total number of registered voters in Wisconsin is 3,129,000. The total number of votes cast in Wisconsin, 3,239,920. This is a direct evidence of fraud. So why is all this fraud being pointed out? And it's not just Mike Kodry who pointed out in Wisconsin, where more people supposedly voted than even existed as registered voters in Wisconsin. President Trump, the last few hours, he's been on a tirade on his Twitter, even though he hasn't come out publicly to say anything. On his Twitter, he's been showing all these examples of voter fraud. Like right here, 3 hours ago, he tweeted out, Detroit absentee ballot counting chaos, blocked windows and observers, where they're literally blocking windows in Detroit, preventing people from observing the vote and trying to find out what's going on. Then again, President Trump tweeted this out 3 hours ago. Demands arise for the Pennsylvania Attorney General to step aside. This is the guy who came out earlier today and said, we still got 1 million or more votes to count, even though almost all the voting had been counted in Pennsylvania, and President Trump was still, I think, 300,000 to 400,000 votes ahead of Biden. So he's pointing this out, the fraud of this Pennsylvania Attorney General. He retweets out Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, the Republican House Minority Leader, who goes out there and says, we're not only going to take the House, we're going to take the Senate, and President Trump is going to win in a massive landslide. Then President Trump says this, our lawyers have asked for meaningful access, but what good does that do? The damage has already been done to the integrity of our system and to the presidential election itself. This is what should be discussed. You see, he's not just looking to put a Band-Aid or win a few votes here or there. He's saying the entire integrity of our election system has been shot through by the deep state because they put all these fraudulent ballots out. And we know what the real ballots are because of this watermark system that was put in place that the deep state stupidly was ignorant of or ignored or just were arrogant enough to think that they could, that it didn't matter. It didn't matter that DHS had put control over this. This is another indication, this tweet right here, that President Trump's not just looking to put a Band-Aid on. He is looking to completely expose how much fraud was done on the entire integrity of our system. And then he puts this out. He says, we have claimed for electoral vote purposes the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which won't allow legal observers, the state of Georgia, the state of North Carolina, each one which has a big Trump lead. Additionally, we hereby claim, we hereby claim the state of Michigan if, in fact, we are winning, if, in fact, there was a large number of secretly dumped ballots, as has been widely reported, and there has in Michigan. So President Trump's out there showing all this fraud going on in all these different areas in all these different states because it's leading toward an exposure of the fraud in all 50 states. Because I'm telling you, President Trump won in a massive landslide last night, and the deep state is desperately trying to cancel that out. That's what they're doing. And all the media networks are in it as well, including Fox News. So they're going to come down too in all this. Now, this is from QDrop 2479 that was posted back on November 11th, 2018. This was right after the midterms. And remember what Q posted. He said, what if the below could be proven? Election plus D party officials filled out many thousands of blank ballots. Number two, election plus D party officials removed and destroyed legal ballots. Number three, election plus D party officials deliberately organized non-citizen voting. This was the meme I showed earlier. But this comes from this Q drop back in November of 2018, right after the midterms. 4, election plus D party officials in XX locations across the U.S. under lock and key stored many thousands of blank ballots for purposes of altering the vote total. Who safeguards blank ballots? Who issues blank ballots? Who controls blank ballots? How many blank ballots are generated versus total county population? The control and issuance of blank ballots is key. Why did the same counties under dispute today refuse to turn over voter registration information upon request to the Voter Fraud Commission? Remember back in 2018, we had that voter fraud commission that had been set up right at the beginning of President Trump's term. Turned out that that voter fraud commission actually was filled with fraud itself. And President Trump had to basically do away with it because it was filled with so much fraud. Why was the voter fraud commission disbanded? Do away with it because it was filled with so much fraud. Why was the voter fraud commission disbanded and turned over to DHS, which is what's happened? What vested authority does DHS have compared to a commissioned body? Well, we see back on July 12th of this year, what they did is they instituted and took complete control of the federal ballots, and they issued this watermark on true ballots. Well, that's what they've been able to do. Now, people say, well, how come if Q was talking about this right after the midterms, why wasn't all the fraud exposed in the midterms? Well, first of all, the commission that was in place at that point, which was the Voter Fraud Commission, this was before DHS took over the ballots at the federal level, that it was filled with fraud. But see, the Patriots didn't want to stop all the fraud that went on in 2018. And why? Because of this. Joe M says this: surprised that some followed the miracle of the plan for 3 years and marveled at its sophistication, but for the first time are willing to forget everything we have learned about the art of war. Remember the midterms back in 2018. We couldn't understand why we lost the House. Then it all made sense. We kept the Senate because we needed the Senate. We lost the House because we didn't want the House. We wanted them to expose their crimes through impeachment and many other frauds like withholding pandemic relief, etc. What happened yesterday is as much part of the plan as everything else. It has been flawlessly executed, and we have lured the enemy countless times into traps when they thought we were losing. Now is no different. You will soon see why this had to happen. Don't ruin these few days ahead for yourself with worry. Remember, what you have learned about Trump and Q, they simply cannot lose no matter how it looks. Military grade, keep enjoying the show. And then he says, it is impossible that Trump loses. We can predict very little, but this is one we can with unshakable certainty. And then he talks about President Trump's inflammatory tweet about claiming Pennsylvania, claiming Georgia, North Carolina, claiming Michigan. And Joe M says, why would POTUS tweet such an inflammatory thing, calling a result before the result, if it were not to provoke the left into claiming he stole Michigan when he wins? This supports the theory that we want both sides to demand voter fraud investigations. And both sides will be yelling, screaming for voter fraud investigations in all sorts of states all across the union. And that's when President Trump and Rudy Giuliani's in on this too. That's why he's going out, pointing out all the fraud in Pennsylvania right now. Eric Trump is in on this, and a couple of others. Corey Lewandowski, he knows about this. They are about to reveal all the massive fraud that all these deep state elites have been involved in pushing these fake ballots, and it's going to take down them all. And then it's going to reveal the true results, which is an absolute landslide for President Trump. So again, way back on June 22nd of this year, President Trump tweeted, rigged 2020 election. Millions of mail-in ballots will be printed by foreign countries and others. It will be the scandal of our times. That's what Trump predicted way back in June of this year. And then JD Bernie 1 reveals, consider the Department of Homeland Security controlled official ballots production. Dems print extras not knowing about non-radioactive isotope watermarks, watch the water, on official ballots. Military sting operation after weeding out all counterfeit ballots. Trump landslide confirmed. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. It's going to happen, folks. This is where we're headed.